Hello everyone, I am Azamat and today we are going to explore phonetics, the science of speech sounds. Curious, in this lesson we will look at how speech sounds are produced, how they travel as sound waves, and how they are perceived by the listener. We will move from the smallest speech units to larger features such as stress and connected speech. By the end of this lesson, you will see that speech is not random noise, but a highly organized and fascinating human ability. Let us begin with the basic question: what is phonetics? Phonetics is the scientific study of human speech sounds. Curious, it focuses on three main things: how sounds are produced by our speech organs, what physical properties those sounds have, and how they are heard and interpreted by other people. A phonetician studies the physical side of speech rather than meaning. In other words, phonetics is concerned with how sounds are made and understood even before we look at grammar or vocabulary. Thoughtful, it is also important to remember that phonetics is not limited only to spoken language. It can also include equivalent gestural and perceptual aspects found in sign languages. Phonetics is usually divided into three major branches. Curious, the first is articulatory phonetics, which studies how speech sounds are physically produced by the tongue, lips, larynx, and airflow. The second is acoustic phonetics, which examines speech as sound waves and studies features such as frequency, amplitude, and duration. The third is auditory phonetics, which focuses on how the human ear and brain receive, process, and interpret speech sounds. Thoughtful, together, these three branches give us a complete picture of speech, from speaker to sound wave to listener. Now let us look at some basic units of phonetic analysis. A phone is the smallest distinct speech sound considered simply as a physical sound, without reference to meaning. Curious, it is usually written in square brackets, for example, bracket P. A phoneme, however, is the smallest sound unit that can change meaning in a language. For example, the difference between the sounds kin cat and bin bat creates a difference in meaning. Then we have allophones, which are different pronunciations of the same phoneme that do not change meaning. Thoughtful, for instance, the sound pin is aspirated, while in spin it is unaspirated, but both are still understood as the same phoneme in English. This distinction is very important in phonetics and phonology. Speech is possible because of the coordinated work of several organs in the human body. First, the lungs provide the airstream, which acts as the power source for speech. Then the larynx, which contains the vocal folds, is responsible for phonation. Curious, when the vocal folds vibrate, they produce voice sounds. After that, the airflow is shaped by the articulators, including the tongue, lips, teeth, palate, and velum. Finally, the oral and nasal cavities serve as resonating chambers that give sound its particular quality. Thoughtful, so speech is not produced by one organ alone, but by a whole system working together. Speech sounds are generally divided into consonants and vowels. Consonants are produced when the airflow is obstructed or narrowed somewhere in the vocal tract. Curious, we usually describe consonants according to three features: place of articulation, manner of articulation, and voicing. Place tells us where the obstruction happens, such as bilabial, alveolar, or velar. Manner explains how the airflow is modified, for example as a plosive, fricative, or nasal. Voicing shows whether the vocal folds vibrate, as in voiced, or do not vibrate, as in voiceless. Thoughtful, vowels are different because they are produced with a relatively open vocal tract. Their quality depends mainly on tongue height, tongue position from front to back, and lip rounding. These features are often shown in the IPA vowel quadrilateral. When we analyze speech, we must understand that speech can be viewed in different ways. First, there is the distinction between phones and phonemes, between physical sounds and abstract meaning distinguishing units. Thoughtful, second, there is citation form, which is the careful pronunciation of a word in isolation, like the form we usually find in a dictionary. This pronunciation is clear, slow, and deliberate. However, in real life people rarely speak in isolated words. Curious, that is why connected speech is so important. In natural conversation, sounds influence one another, merge, disappear, or change. This makes spoken language dynamic and much more complex than dictionary pronunciation. Stress gives rhythm and prominence to speech. It can be understood as greater loudness, higher pitch, or longer duration placed on a syllable or word. Curious, there are different types of stress. Word stress operates within a word. For example, the word record changes meaning depending on stress, record as a noun and record as a verb. Sentence stress works at the level of the whole utterance. In a sentence, certain words are emphasized to show contrast or importance. Thoughtful, for example, changing the stressed word in the sentence "I didn't say it" changes the speaker's focus and meaning. So stress is not just a matter of pronunciation, it is also a matter of communication and intention. One of the most common phonetic processes in connected speech is assimilation. Assimilation happens when neighboring sounds become more alike. Curious, this usually occurs because speakers naturally try to reduce articulatory effort. It is easier for our speech organs to move smoothly from one sound to another if the sounds are similar. Assimilation can be regressive when a following sound influences a previous one, or progressive when an earlier sound affects what comes next. A common example is 10 bikes, which may sound like 10 bikes in rapid speech. Thoughtful of assimilation can also be synchronic, meaning it happens in present-day speech, or diachronic, meaning it became part of the language over time through historical change. Two more important processes are elision and insertion. Elision is the omission of a sound, especially in rapid or casual speech. Curious, for example, in the word statement, one sound may be lost between consonants, and in the phrase "the next day," the final "t" may disappear. Insertion is the opposite process. It means adding a sound to make pronunciation easier and smoother. Thoughtful, for example, some speakers insert a sound in words like dance, and in phrases such as idea of, an intrusive r may appear to link the vowels more naturally. These processes show how real speech often differs from careful, formal pronunciation. There are also several other phonetic processes that shape fluent speech. One of them is coarticulation. Curious, this happens when the speech organs begin preparing for the next sound before the current sound is finished. Speech is therefore continuous and overlapping, not a simple chain of separate sounds. Another process is reduction. In English, unstressed vowels are often reduced to the schwa sound, which is one of the key features of English rhythm. A third process is linking, when words are smoothly connected across word boundaries. For example, in the phrase "an apple," the sounds are joined together naturally. Thoughtful, all these processes help explain why natural speech sounds fluid and connected. The next important idea is orthoepy, which refers to correct or standard pronunciation according to accepted usage. These norms are often reflected in dictionaries and pronunciation guides. Orthoepy is especially important in formal communication, such as teaching, public speaking, law, and broadcasting, where clear pronunciation supports credibility and understanding. Thoughtful, at the same time, pronunciation is not identical everywhere. It may vary depending on region, dialect, social background, and individual speech habits. Curious, so orthoepy must always balance two perspectives, the prescriptive view of how people should speak and the descriptive view of how people actually speak in real life. To conclude, speech is far more than just sound. It is structured, systematic, and deeply connected to human communication. Thoughtful, phonetics helps us understand how speech is produced by the body, transmitted as sound, and interpreted by the listener. It also explains important processes such as stress, assimilation, elision, reduction, and linking. From the smallest allophone to the rhythm of sentence stress, every part of speech reveals the complexity of language. In conclusion, phonetics shows us that speech is much more than just a series of sounds. It is a complex and well-organized process in which every movement of the speech organs, every sound pattern, and every stress placement plays an important role. Thoughtful. By studying phonetics, we better understand how language works in real communication, not only in theory but also in everyday speech. This knowledge helps us improve our pronunciation, develop stronger listening skills, and become more confident users of English. Sincere. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope this lesson has helped you see the beauty and importance of phonetics in a new way.